good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to introduce senior real estate broker, founder of Kelly Robertson team, and entrepreneur. The amazing, talented Kelly Robinson is all the way from New York City. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
So Kelly, firstly, congratulations on all your achievements. Living in the greatest city in the world and being a senior real estate broker in a highly competitive industry, can you give us some background on your real estate and your entrepreneurial journey and where it began?
So it's not a super exciting story. I was kind of in between careers. I was going from I was doing PR, and I was kind of figuring out whether I wanted to continue doing that or do it for myself, because I was facing a lot of roadblocks. I would get a lot of things done for the company I was working for, and then they would say no. And so I had a friend who was in real estate, and she said, you'd be really great at real estate, and then, you could do everything that you want to do because you're running your own business. And, with regards to PR, you're your own boss, and people aren't going to tell you no after you do all this work to get great PR for somebody. So I said, okay, I'll think about it. And I went and I got my license, and I started working at a rental firm, which was difficult. Rentals in New York City is you pound the pavement. There's not a lot of loyalty, and you work really hard for not a lot of money. And so then I decided that I would join a team at a firm that focused more on sales. And I joined a team, and I started working as an assistant for a top real estate agent, and that's kind of where my journey began.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have 14 years of experience in real estate in New York City. What would you say? The differentiating factor would be that makes you so successful in one of the most competitive cities in the world? And what have some of your biggest lessons and learnings been that you have experienced and that you can share with us?
So I think, it's pretty simple. To be different in this business, you would think that, you would have to do something extraordinary, but I think a lot of it comes down to just being genuine and genuinely caring about your clients and customers, and being more relationship oriented than transactional. So many brokers are transactional, and they move from one deal to the next without genuinely caring about their clients. And when you really look at what the person's needs are and focus on that, sometimes you end up telling them, you know what? Maybe it's not time for you to do a deal. Maybe you should wait. Maybe you should hold off on selling or buying. And sometimes, that's a hard thing to do, but you end up building trust with your clients and customers. And even if you don't do a deal with them, they tend to refer you a lot of business. And so because I really look out for their best interest, I tend to get a ton of referrals. Like I said, it's pretty simple, but I think that it's really important to listen and really focus on somebody else's needs rather than your own bank account.
Yes.
Because in the end, it comes back to you.
Absolutely. So as you are the founder of the Kelly Robinson team, can you share with us more about this, and was this a natural transition for you?
So in the beginning of my career, I worked on two different teams. One team I worked on for 4 years, another team I worked on for 2 years. And I learned a lot from my team leaders. I learned what not to do, what I didn't like, and I learned a lot of great things of what to do. And then I went off on my own. And after, experiencing some not so nice treatment from team leaders, I said, you know what, I'm never going to be on a team again. And I don't know if I want to have a team, but I ended up having so much business that I couldn't handle it myself. And so I hired an assistant, and then I ended up having to hire 2 more people to help me with all my listings. And it just kind of formed into a team, and I've had a team ever since. I've had a team since 2011, so 8 years now.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So as you have an extensive knowledge which spans across multiple sections of the industry. Can you share with us, as a real estate specialist, a specialist from projects to investments?
Yeah, so I've done everything from rentals to townhouse sales to cooperatives and condominiums and new development projects. That has given me the opportunity to consult a lot of my sellers on renovations that they might want to do prior to selling.
Yeah.
And I've consulted a lot of developers on layouts for properties. A lot of agents will just do new developments or resale, but because I've worked with so many buyers, I know very well what buyers are looking for in a layout and amenities in a building. And so it really helps me to consult developers and people doing renovations on how to make the most of their layouts and their finishes so that the buyer pool is interested. As far as investors are concerned, I've worked with a lot of investors, and you really have to understand cap rates and, return on investment and all of those things. And also you have to understand what buyers and renters are looking for so that you can capitalize on those improvements that you make in your home.
Wow, amazing. So in a highly competitive industry and as a woman in a very male-dominated industry, do you believe this is changing, and do you believe that it is improving? And what are some of the skills that you have learned and applied in order to navigate through this?
So in commercial real estate, which I do not focus on, that's a very male-dominated part of the industry, and new development, the developers are mainly male in my industry. When it comes to resale, residential resale business, it's actually a very female-dominated industry, but if you watch all of the real estate shows online, it's all men that they have on those shows. And so it makes people think that it's a male-dominated industry when, in fact, the majority of real estate agents in this country are women.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah. But when you're working in new developments, I've dealt with sexual harassment and all sorts of things. And in my industry, it's not very well regulated. So you really have to be careful. You need to learn how to stand up for yourself, at the same time while not ruining your business relationships. And it's a very fine line, because
very
you have to do it right. And I recently walked off of a new development project because a developer was being very inappropriate with me. And when I heard that they were looking for, young, beautiful women to take my place, I had to say something to my company about, the inappropriate conversations and things that were said to me, because I did not want what happened to me to happen to somebody else. And I have a very strong backbone, and I can handle things, and I'm the first person to tell somebody that's creepy, don't say that to me. But a lot of women, are very afraid, and they don't know how to handle this type of a thing, and I didn't want it happening to somebody else.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, a similar thing happened to me, and I just think that also sometimes people have positions of power, and they use that, or they use their title to try and lure women in, or just be completely inappropriate. So I think it's that you can stand up and tell people about it.
And we have to stand up for each other as well as women, and also I know a lot of men who have been harassed too. And that doesn't get as much press, right? Or that doesn't get as much attention, but it happens to both sexes. The focus right now is on women, but it's really, kind of rampant in my industry.
No, absolutely. So having a multifaceted knowledge, which has continued to foster your negotiation skills, can you share with us and elaborate on this? One of the biggest challenges women have is negotiation. Most women's biggest challenge is closing. How did you master this skill, and can you share with us or give us some examples of this?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to negotiation. I love to study the art of negotiation. I'm a certified negotiation expert. I've taken a lot of classes, classes that are taught at Harvard Law School, and I also, given New York is very multicultural when it comes to business and real estate, I've also studied the way that different cultures negotiate, and I find it absolutely fascinating. So you really have to be a chameleon and learn how other people negotiate so that you can negotiate with them. And there are multiple personality types as well, and multiple different types of negotiators. And so once you can pinpoint the way that what kind of negotiator that person is, then you can negotiate with them to a higher degree. And that's just something that I absolutely love and find fascinating.
Amazing. So as you worked and currently work with very high-profile individuals, both in sports and the entertainment industry, and have created amazing business relationships with your clients, can you share with us what's unique and special that gives you edge over your competitors?
Yeah, so I think the first and most important thing is discretion. When you're dealing with high-profile people, well, first of all, you're typically dealing with their managers first, and then you're dealing with them.
Okay.
And then, a lot of times you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but regardless of whether I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, I understand how important discretion is. There are many people in my industry who, if they work with somebody who's high profile, they immediately run to the press and tell them about it because they want press on that celebrity. Yeah, they want that, and that's especially when you're dealing with somebody's home, that is completely inappropriate. I have turned down multiple press inquiries about people that I've worked with. I will never speak to the press. I will never tell anybody who I'm working with or who I have worked with, because I just feel like it's unfair. A home is a very private place, and a lot of these people have paparazzi following them around, and the last thing you want is somebody to get a hold of their address and, bother them in a place where they're supposed to be able to feel safe.
Absolutely. So that leads me to the next question. There is a lot of emphasis around leadership. Currently, what would you say your definition of leadership is to you? And leading a team, what would you say you do differently?
That's a tough one. I think that being a good leader has a lot to do with listening to your team as well as just talking. I think that it's so important to have people working with you that are smarter than you in different aspects of the business, so that you can all add something. And I always listen to my team members and their ideas. And you know what? I love to learn from them, because you can always learn from somebody even if they don't have as much experience as you. I don't like to bark at people. I always treat people with respect. I like to give my team members autonomy so that they don't feel like it's all about Kelly Robinson, because it's really not. It's about all of us doing a great job, working together and making money and respecting one another. And that, that leads us to do more business and at a higher level.
Absolutely. So what would you say your biggest career highlights have been? And when you landed your first biggest high-profile client, when you landed your first biggest high-profile client, when was this, and can you share with us the lessons around this, and what would you say your biggest challenges and most rewarding lessons were in this process?
So one of my biggest career highlights was that I sold out a new development. It was the fastest selling new development in Manhattan at the time. We sold out a whole building in under 11 months.
Wow.
And that in a business where new developments don't sell fast, that was a huge win for me, and I felt really good about it. Again, my lesson with my first really high-profile client, we had a listing, and I was also working with a high-profile client, and the listing happened to be right for them, and it had a big terrace outside, and so they wanted a privacy tent. This was a big person in the music industry, and they needed a privacy tent so that people could not look down into their terrace and see them. And we got all of this approved, and the day that the money was supposed to be wired for them to move in, it was a rental. A lot of celebrities rent first because they get moved around a lot for their jobs, so they don't buy all the time. My team leader at the time went to the New York Post and told them about it, and the exact photos and address of the property ended up in the New York Post, and this person couldn't end up moving in. And that was my first high-profile client. I was absolutely mortified. I ended up quitting the team at that point because I felt so bad for this person, and also was just so embarrassed that my team leader had gone to the press to try and get some celebrity for herself. And that really it was terrible, and that really just taught me again how to be, discreet and to always take people's, privacy into consideration.
Absolutely. So we did touch on this a bit earlier, around the subject around sexual harassment, and obviously it's a very serious subject, and is currently being highlighted a lot. So you obviously say you've personally experienced this. Has anybody in your team experienced something like this, and have they come to you, seeking assistance? And what would your advice to other women, not only in your industry but in general, and how if dealing with other individuals in high-profile positions or founding positions, would you deal with this, and what would your advice be?
So luckily, nobody on my team has experienced this that I know of. They do know that they can come to me for anything. They've come to me about other things that they've needed help with, whether it's somebody trying to slander them or something else. But I think, as far as advice is concerned, I think, you just have to be strong, and you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to support other women. If you're in a situation where you are in a room with another woman and somebody is treating her inappropriately, you can't be quiet. You have to say something. You can't just sit there and be concerned about losing your job. You have to say something. The other thing is that, especially in my industry, when women speak out, they tend to be blacklisted from getting jobs. People don't want to work with them because they're worried that they might not be telling the truth, right? That's another thing that's facing a lot of these women in the Me Too movement, is that, you come forward and then people are afraid to work with you because they're afraid you might blame them for something that they didn't do. And so you really have to nip things in the bud before it gets out of hand, and something, absolutely happens. If somebody is physical with you, you absolutely have to stand up for yourself. You absolutely have to go, come out about it. And you can't worry too much about your career. I mean, it's a really hard thing to say, but it's so much more important to support other women and other people that are dealing with these issues right now, and get whoever is doing these things to stop.
Yes. Agreed completely. So you have achieved many great degrees and have a passion for the arts. How do you feel that has helped and cross-pollinated into the real estate broker industry? And have you only worked in the broker industry in the US, or have you done or considered expanding internationally?
So, growing up, I was an actor, and I went to a conservatory program for college. And I think that my training in that program helped me a lot, because when you are going through method acting training, it's all about listening.
Yes.
And really, being intuitive and taking off of another person. And I think that's helped me to really listen to my clients and really be intuitive regarding things that maybe they don't say,
Yes.
so that I can help them to the best of my ability. I'm forgetting the second part of the question.
No. I just said, have you only worked in the U.S. market, or have you considered expanding internationally?
I've only worked in the U.S. market. I do have an international client base. Yes. And like I said, I do study the way that different cultures negotiate. I do have a wonderful agent on my team who speaks Mandarin and Cantonese and does go to China to network. And I'm planning on going to Dubai in the near future to network with some agents that I've met from over there. I would love to expand into Europe and other parts of the world at some point, but that's not something that I'm doing right now.
Okay, no, that's perfect. So I see you've won many awards. Can you share with us a little more about that? And did this open or enhance or open many doors for you?
Yeah, so as far as the awards are concerned, I think more than anything, more than even opening doors for me, in a sense, it's really given me the confidence, more than anything, to just go out and get more business and do a good job, and to know that I have what it takes to be successful in this industry. So more than opening doors, I really feel like it's just given me that reassurance to go out and do my job even better.
Amazing. So can you give us some advice or insight or strategy in terms of landing a big fish in inverted commas? What would you say to anyone who really wants to land a big client or a deal? And do you have any golden nuggets that you could share with us?
Yeah, so it's really all about networking and referrals. So you really have to be great at networking. You've got to go to events. You've got to network with, financial advisors, people who have connections. I do a lot of networking with people in the sports and entertainment industries, managers, people who focus on wealth management for athletes and celebrities. And I constantly try to give them referrals. And, I always try to do something for them before they do something for me. Because it really is a give and take. Again, it's about networking and referrals, being in the right place at the right time, knowing where the right place to be is. And, sometimes you're tired and you don't want to go to an event at night, but you got to just do it, You
got to put those shoes on, put that dress on, or get dressed up and go and do it for sure. So I see you are co-founder of EJR Scholarship Fund. You have a passion for giving back. Can you share with us a little more about this?
Yeah, so my father was a big rugby player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played rugby my whole life. He was the president of multiple rugby clubs, and so, we were always at games growing up. And the one thing I loved about rugby was, or I do love about rugby, is that they really teach respect and sportsmanship more than I think any other sport does. They afterwards, everybody gets together, both teams get together, and they shake hands, and they go out for drinks, and, they might beat each other up on the field, but it's just a game, and there's no bad blood. And after my father passed away, I would be at rugby events, and there would be people from, the rival teams who would come up to me and say, you know what, I loved your father. He was a great guy. I spent time in his Hamptons house, and you know, we were the biggest rival on the biggest rival team, but you know, your dad was a great guy, and I really loved him. And you don't always hear that in a lot of, you know, from a lot of people in sports, from other teams, and they also teach respect for the coaches and the referees, and you know, you don't really see a lot of rugby players yelling and screaming at referees. You see them being respectful, and so when my father passed away, you know, we wanted to do something in his honor, and so we started a scholarship fund for young rugby players. And you know, we recently got our tax exempt status, our tax deductible status. So now you can make a donation, and your donation is tax deductible. It took 2 years to do that. And yeah, our scholarship is not need-based. It's based on, you know, somebody's references and their essay, and you know, how rugby has kind of changed them and made them grow into somebody who helps others and who respects others. And it's just really rewarding to give scholarships to these kids every year. We give them to girls and boys. We usually give them to one girl and one boy every year.
Amazing.
And so that's what that is. Yeah.
That's amazing. So that leads me to the final question. If there are 3 key pieces of advice to entrepreneurs and our audience, what would you share with us in terms of your key 3 pieces of advice?
I think when it comes to real estate, you know, just listen, always listen, genuinely care, be relationship oriented, do not be transactional. Yes. Always respect other people, be nice to other brokers. They're also your clients. Yes. They're not your enemies. You know, make sure you have a strong focus on ethics. When you have a team, respect your team members, listen to them. They tend to have great ideas, even if you have 10 years more experience than they do. You can always learn something from somebody else, even if they're brand new. And really study the art of negotiation, learn what types of negotiators people are and how different cultures negotiate.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing everything and for being on Talent Finders podcast today. And hopefully we can have you back in the future to see how you're progressing.
Thank you so much.